Thank you. There will be now an opportunity for silent prayer or meditation. Thank you. Please be seated. The Secretary will read the order.
Debate on vote number 3, Communications Appropriation Bill.
I will now call the Minister of Communications.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, Minister Rob Davis in our midst and Deputy Minister Tavete, traditional leaders here present here today, trustees of Brand South Africa, the acting chairperson of the Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA, and other councillors, chairpersons and board members of the SABC, MDDA, Films and Publication Board, and USASA, members of the media, distinguished guests in the gallery, ladies and gentlemen, Abusheni, Dimacheloni, Molweni, thank you. As I present this budget vote today, I will also take this opportunity to reflect on the commitments that I made on the 2015-2016 budget vote. Last year, we indicated that the new Department of Communications will become operational from the 1st of April 2015. It is therefore with a great sense of pride that I stand before you today to report that the department is hard at work and has successfully completed its first year of operation. Last year, when I stood before this House, we reported that Cabinet had approved the final amendments to the Broadcasting Digital Migration Policy. I'm delighted to inform this House that since then, we have made significant progress in implementing the approved policy. Amongst others, we have been able to achieve the following critical milestones. We have finalized the digital terrestrial TV and direct-to-home standards in April 2015 and integrated digital TV standards in September 2015. Between May and June 2015, we undertook a series of bilateral engagements with Botswana, Namibia, Mozambique, Swaziland, and Lesotho to ensure the harmonization of the radio frequency spectrum in order to develop plans to reduce any potential broadcast signal interference. During these visits, I signed joint communique, joint statement, and memorandum of cooperation with my neighboring counterparts. I can report in confidence to this House that to date, no interference has been reported. In July 2015, we launched the commencement of the public awareness campaigns to educate the citizens about the need to migrate and the benefits of the Broadcasting Digital Migration Program. The launch was followed by a series of digital migration Izimbizo campaigns and that I led across the country. In August 2015, a conformance regime to ensure that the set-top boxes and related accessories are produced in South Africa was finalized. It is currently being used to test whether the set-top boxes comply with the approved South African DTT standards. In August 2015, also a panel of manufacturers was established by USASA to produce the set-top boxes and related accessories such as antennas and satellite dishes. The implementation of the long-awaited digital migration has started in the Northern Cape. The SKA-bound community, KMOS, has become the first beneficiary of the direct-to-home and the DTT set-top boxes. I would like to thank the mayor of KMOS, Councillor Olin, and Ward Councillor Mr. Afrikaner, who are present here for their invaluable support in ensuring that this project is launched successfully. Councillor Olin and Councillor Afrikaner, can you stand up so that the people should see you? Members, these are true ambassadors of the digital migration program in their communities. Thank you so much. We will also continue to work with the Department of Science and Technology to ensure that we complete the Northern Cape SK area on or before the 2016 June deadline. The registration process made it possible for us to launch the distribution and installation of the government subsidized set-top boxes and related accessories on 17 December 2015 in Kamos under the theme Ziko Iteya, It's Happening, Sahumelela in South Africa. Mrs. Slanger, the first recipient of the government set-top box, is with us this morning. Mrs. Slanger, Mevrouw Slanger, die eerste ontvanger van die regering se subsidie se set-top box. Sy is hier met ons. There she is. Mevrouw, ek is baie trots op jou, mevrou. Want meeste van ons ouderlinge is nie enthousiasties om technology te gebruik nie. Baie dankie, mevrou. Yes, ek praat. We have also announced 1st February 2016 as the commencement of the dual illumination performance period. To make digital migration a success, we'll work with the Department of Telecommunications and Postal Services and the National Treasury to come up with a mechanism on how Center can be assisted in maintaining the two-network system, the dual illumination cost. We will announce the analog switch-off date when more than 80% of the TV households have been migrated to digital television. House Chairperson, this achievement also have their own challenges. We have in the recent past noted a slow registration take-up by citizens due to the TV license requirements and insufficient funding to conduct the public and consumer awareness campaign. Together with the SABC management, we have since resolved to delink the TV license requirement from the set-top box subsidy registration process. I've also instructed the SABC to clean up their TV license database in order to have accurate and reliable information on who owns a television set in South Africa to enable the proper infrastructure planning. Despite having no access to television services, Mr. John Africa, may you please stand up? Despite him having no access to television services, Mr. John Africa, who's among us this morning, has been a very responsible citizen by doing the right thing to pay his TV license regardless of his financial situation. I'm also making a clarion call for all citizens to pay their TV license to enable the SABC to discharge its public service broadcasting services mandate with ease. Thank you so much, Mr. Africa. We wish to reiterate that the success of the digital terrestrial project across the globe is heavily dependent on the implementation of a focused and a properly funded education awareness campaign. It is with great concern to note that the digital public awareness campaign and related activities, such as the call center, are not yet funded in the 2016-2017 financial year. However, there are temporary mechanisms to place to address the funding shortfall in the interim. Lastly, I have acted decisively on the allegation regarding the inappropriate procurement of set-top boxes and related accessories. We have since received a final forensic report on the supply chain management process from the National Treasury, and once we have studied the findings and recommendation thereof, we will inform the public on the necessary actions to be taken. House Chairperson, together with the Government Communication and Information System Department, we have implemented the transformation intervention to overhaul the broader communication industry. Today, the 6th of May 2016, the Department of Trade and Industry will republish the Marketing, Advertising and Communication Charter Sector Code, concluding the 15 years of negotiation. This paves the way for the implementation of the MAC Charter Sector Council, which will also monitor the ambitious transformation targets necessary to ensure more participation by women and young people. To give effect to these targets, we have also entered into a memorandum of understanding with the state-owned entity Communicators Association, representing the marketing division of government entities. We will begin evaluating the marketing, advertising, and communication companies providing services to government and its entities, and will remove non-complying companies from our database. Marketing and advertising communication reaches out over 50 million South Africans every day. For such a small industry, its power to influence South African is disproportionate to its size. Hence, the need to make it a truly South African industry is imperative for us as a department. House Chairperson, there is a huge disconnect between the expectations of both government and the media on what exactly the role of media should be. On the one hand, government has taken a view that media is a partner and consequently lined up a whole strategy and delivery mechanism on this false premise. Every fortnight since President Zuma took office in 2009, government holds post-cabinet briefings with video conferencing facilities to link up both Cape Town and Pretoria. At any given media briefings, the cabinet statements are generally not less than 10 pages of insightful content that covers the current affairs, cabinet decisions, presidential engagements, national achievements, conferences and commitments of both ministers, locally and internationally. The release also contains pertinent details of progress report in terms of the outcomes as per the delivery contracts between the president and ministers. In addition, there is regular reporting on the bills and their various stages towards becoming legislation. Notwithstanding this, our media will rather focus scandalizing government, even if that means not getting all the facts right. To some media houses, their main mission is simply to paint this government as corrupt, helpless, and inept. It could also be argued that racist tendencies also play a role in the unrelenting attempts aimed at stigmatizing this black government led by the African National Congress. It has now become common cause that the independence and professionalism of many journalists are now measured on how ruthless their reporting can be about this ANC-led government. Therefore, media transformation will in this regard, amongst others, be made to address not only print media ownership, but also ownership of the printing press, the measurement of circulation, distribution channels, and the assessment of regulatory instruments to regulate the affairs of media practitioners. Honorable members, during my back to school campaign, I was deployed in Limpopo, where I visited Mpambo High School in Malamulele. I discovered that access to information about careers, youth development, including the knowledge of the work of government and its leaders, remains a challenge to historically disadvantaged peoples. I've then since invited one of the peoples at the school, Ms. Nhlala Maluleke, to join us in this gallery. Nhlala, ungayima wala mina. This young girl will share with you how difficult is it for her being a rural village girl to access information. Sit down. Thank you so much. And then we urge also journalists like amongst our midst, Mrs. Patti Sintle, to use their experience and free time to transfer the knowledge of information to these communities. We will, during the second quarter of the financial year, host a colloquium on print media transformation with all role players, including the public, and will urge members of the public to participate in this process. Last year in this House Chairperson, we also committed to developing an overarching national communication policy, to refocus and improve government communication in all spheres. I'm happy to report to the House that this has been completed and is being rolled out to departments and entities, and we've seen a lot of progress to that effect. House Chairperson, work is at an advanced stage regarding the finalization of the broadcasting review process. Some of the overarching specific and objective of the review is to create a level playing field for emerging audio-visual media services, protect and empower consumers, including audiences, in particular guarantee key societal value for the protection of minors and human dignity, and promoting the rights of visually and hearing impaired persons, and promote South African content to support social cohesion and nation building, and safeguard media diversity, pluralism, freedom and expression of information. The community radio support strategy has been finalized and is being implemented. I'm pleased to inform the House that in the 2015-16 financial year, the GCIS has spent over 26 million on community radio only in advertising. During the 2016-17 financial year, 5 licensed community radio stations will be provided with broadcasting infrastructure. We also like to commend the role played by commercial radio broadcasters in helping government to address some of the social ills in our communities. We have amongst us this morning Mr. Alex Mutiane from Igagasi FM in KZN, who played a major role in assisting 16 indigent families in Willowfontein. We call upon other private businesses to do the same. Mr. Alex Mutiane, we want to thank you for the support that you have given us as a department. The department's community radio program is working. We have amongst us today the Mayor of Greater Giyani Municipality, Councillor Tlongwane. If you may stand up so that people must see you. Councillor Tlongwane's municipality partnered with the Giyani Community Radio Station by providing them with premises and advertising support to ensure that the station is sustained. We call upon other municipalities to emulate this gesture without compromising the editorial independence of these stations. Protection of children against harmful online content also remains a critical component of our work during this year. To this end, we have since introduced the Films and Publication Amendment Bill in Parliament. Considering the increase in inline hate speech and discrimination that dominated our country this year, I have instructed the Films and Publication Board to continue engaging with the South African Human Rights Commission to strengthen the government's response on this social ill. We will not tolerate such unbecoming behavior as government. We will continue to work with the Department of Arts and Culture to strengthen the social cohesion and urge members of the public to join us in the campaign #Racism Not in My Name. House Chairperson, the total budget for the 2016-17 financial year amounts to 1.3 billion, of which 899 million are transfers to entities. The department's operational budget amounts to 75.2 million, out of which the amount of 59.2 million and 15.9 million is allocated to the compensation of employees and goods and services respectively. A total amount of 84,000 is allocated for the payment of capital assets. As indicated to the Portfolio Committee, this skewed allocation is a clear indication that the department is not adequately resourced to fully discharge its mandate as pronounced by the President in May 2014. We will, however, continue to make the best of the available budget as we discharge our critical mandate. House Chairperson, the National Development Plan emphasizes the need for South Africans to unite around a common goal to ensure citizens are active in their own development and build a capable and developmental state. We have amongst us this morning a living example of partnership between our government and traditional leaders. This partnership is as a result of our community outreach program in the far-flung rural areas of our country. To this end, we have Hosi Shigamani, Hosi Mangobe, Hosi Kamanyani, Hosi Ngumalo, and Prince Gulukulu. I'd like them to rise up. I want to talk about this gentleman to say these are the people that have been supporting in making sure that our community outreach program is realized. Na kensa te hosita mina mingatsama hansi. To support these outcomes, the GCIS will continue to implement programs aimed at facilitating two-way communication between government and its citizens. This will enable citizenry to access information about government policies, plans, programs, and activities to promote government accountability to ensure that citizens can actively participate in government initiatives. In order to fulfill this responsibility, a budget of 382.1 million has been allocated to GCIS, and 158.2 million is allocated to the compensation of employees and goods and services respectively. The department will also continue to distribute the fortnightly Vukuzenzele newspaper. The total budget allocated for its production and distribution is 18.7 million copies per year of Vukuzenzele in all 11 official languages, and which amounts to 25.8 million in the 2016-17 financial year. We will continue to encourage government departments to place their advertisement in Vukuzenzele because we know it's the only newspaper that's accessible to the rural poorest of our community. I would like to thank the department that are using this platform to advertise their vacancies and also encourage others to do so. Sometime last year, we were fortunate to be visited by a group of 25 elderly persons from a religious congregation in Shayandima, led by the former member of this parliament and the former executive mayor of Membe District Municipality, Mayor Irene Mutsila, who is also amongst us here this morning. So they opted, these men and women, they opted to visit the Government Communication and Information System Resource Center, which we shared with them the various government publications. As a result, even today, they still demand access to most of these government publications. Thank you so much, the team of the Edali, for choosing to visit our resource center in Pretoria amongst all the other tourist destinations. House Chairperson, the success of the DOC is heavily dependent on the optimal performance of all its entities. In order to bring about effective oversight to the entities, we have, during the 26th financial year, approved the Entity Oversight Governance Framework Policy, which we are currently implementing. The Independent Communications Authority of South Africa, ICASA, is mandated to regulate the ICT in the public interest as enshrined in the Constitution. I would like to thank you, honorable members of the National Assembly and the Portfolio Committee on Communication, for the sterling work in recruiting and selecting the new councillors. We are pleased to inform you that the 4 new councillors have joined us in ICASA as from 1st April 2016. Their arrival will bring about the much needed governance and stability in the authority. We wish them well, and we are committed to work with yourselves to prioritize the appointment of the remaining 2 councillors to ensure that we have a full complement of the council. Thank you once more, honorable members, for assisting us in this respect. For the 2016-17 financial year, the authority has been allocated an amount of 414.4 million, which amongst others will be used to increase access to meet high demand for wireless broadband services, protect consumers against harmful practice, employed operators in the use of premium rated services, increase competition in the broadcasting sector, and develop a regulatory framework for dynamic management of spectrum. ICASA will, in the second quarter of this financial year, begin with the review of the new call termination rates. In the line of the memorandum of agreement signed between myself and the Minister of Telecommunication and Postal Services, the Minister will make further pronouncements in his budget vote next week. With this budget, ICASA will also focus on the implementation of the local content regulation for this financial year. The Films and Publication Board will, over the medium term, focus on informing and educating society to empower adults and protect children against harmful content, implementing compliance and monitor and evaluate developing leading-edge technology to perform online content regulation, and to classify the content for films, games, and adult publications, and conducting research on the impact of content on the public. In this regard, we have allocated the Films and Publication Board an amount of 86.4 million. A total amount of 181.2 million has been allocated to Brand South Africa. During this financial year, Brand South Africa will utilize the allocated funding to, amongst others, drive the partnership with university to look at the differentiation branding and the implementation of the Play Your Part program in partnership with the provincial governments. Let me take this opportunity to also welcome the newly appointed trustees of the Brand South Africa. Welcome to the DOC team. An amount of 23.8 million has been allocated to Media and Development Diversity Agency to enable it to provide technical, non-financial and financial support to the diverse media platform. This will enable the MDDA to increase the participation of the communities in ownership and control of community and commercial small media through its agile, cost-effective, and business-focused corporate services and general administration. House Chairperson, the SABC remains South Africa's most accessible broadcaster, and therefore government must continue to support it to discharge its public broadcasting service mandate. The department has a duty to promote the growth and development of the local content industries to ensure that there is enough content for the digital platforms in all 11 official languages. We therefore welcome the announcement by His Excellency President Zuma on the occasion of his budget vote on Wednesday, the 4th of May, and I quote, "The public broadcaster will also be engaging local television content producers on the way forward with regard to new content commissioning," close quote. The ministry is pleased to announce today that the SABC has moved swiftly to meet and engage the local television content producers on the 4th of May 2016. I'm told that this session was full to capacity. This initiative will result in the appointment of commissioning editors in all the 9 provinces where shooting and packaging of content will be done in the respective provinces. This is a radical shift from how the SABC used to commission content, wherein the shooting and packaging used to happen in the main cities. In addition, as announced by the President, we'll work with the Department of Trade and Industry, which has established a Black Emerging Filmmakers Fund, which aims to assist in bridging the inequality gap for filmmakers in South Africa. This initiative by the SABC will go a long way towards preservation of culture, tradition, and heritage as presented by the Ministry of Cooperative Governance and Traditional Affairs in this House on Tuesday, the 3rd of May 2016. House Chairperson, we are also pleased to announce that during the second quarter of this financial year, the SABC will cease to flight international content repeats, and this will be replaced by South African content, where all South Africans will be telling their own stories in their own language. While we welcome the good work done by the SABC team, We also bemoan the continued inadequate funding for the corporation. In this regard, work is underway to develop different funding model options for the SABC. We are evaluating the available funding models, including direct government funding, advertising, and the television license fee as possible sources of increased funding for the SABC. Therefore, the SABC allocated 182.2 million to fund the operation of Channel Africa, capital infrastructure, program, community radio station, and program production. This milestone that we have achieved, as you know, that we are presenting this budget vote during the Africa Month. This year's program focuses on women, youth development activity, especially as we celebrate the activities of the 60th anniversary of Women's March to the Union Buildings and the 40th anniversary of the Soweto Student Uprising. While the Constitution gives equal rights to South Africans, it also places responsibility on us to play our part in fostering social cohesion and nation building. In conclusion, I want to thank the Portfolio Committee on Communication for your excellent counsel in performing your oversight function to the department and its entities, which we have done together with members of the opposition. I would also like to thank the Deputy Minister and the DOC team, including the past and present leadership and management for the entities for their unwavering support. Special thanks goes to my comrades for their continued support and guidance. Lastly, I'd like to thank my family, in particular my son, for his understanding and support and putting a smile on my face and to wake me up every day to go to work. Chairperson, it's my privilege at this moment to table the budget vote to the House. I thank you.
Thank you very much, and I'm sure note will be made that you have already used one of your minutes of the response time. The Honorable D.R. Toteti.
Honorable Chairperson, Minister of Communication, Ms. Faith Mutambi, Deputy Minister, Mrs. Stella Ndabeni Abrahams, ministers in the House here and deputies, honorable members, the entities, our guests, and the public out there, I stand here today addressing this esteemed House when the world of media is changing at a rapid pace, when spending on media continues to shift from traditional to digital products and services at a rapid pace, when there is a rise of global content, international intermediation and integration as leading social networking platforms, both personal and professional, provide videos, music, and news from outside sources directly to their users. When daily newspapers and consumer magazines have been hurt more than other segments by the transition to digital, when the content contained in newspapers and consumer magazines can often be obtained much faster and for free over the internet, and when readership has been falling and advertisers have cut back on their print spending in response to the decline in print audiences. This is in line with the McKinsey and Company's Global Media Report 2015, which provides annual historical data from 2009 through 2014 and forecasts from 2015 to 2019. Chairperson, I address this House when there's both radicalization and marginalization of young people, when we are serious about addressing the challenges and implications of digitalization for youth, where I would like to use the digital media literacy to assist youth to appreciate the values of freedom, tolerance, and non-discrimination, when we want to assist and ensure that children and young people acquire and develop critical thinking and media literacy, particularly in the use of the internet and social media, so as to develop resistance to all forms of discrimination and indoctrination. According to statistics released by Mr. Padil Hutla, parents are more educated than their children. This is ironical, as it is in the interest of any country to invest in their youth as far as academic achievement and skills development are concerned. Surely children are going to be their parents on information and communication technology. Let us not allow history to repeat itself, We are from the history whereby education was not meant for Africans, blacks in particular. Despite all this, allow me to remind this House that as the ANC, we have always believed that democracy thrives when there are major opportunities for the mass of ordinary people actively participating through discussion and autonomous organizations in shaping the agenda of public life, and when they are actively using these opportunities that will be found in Colin Crouch Post-Democracy of 2004. I stand here before you representing a proud movement that had foresight to know that in order to create an environment of an informed society, it had to make a declaration on the role of the media in a democratic society, and that the ANC will ensure that the SABC is fully dedicated to upholding the policies of a new democratic government, namely that reporting be fair, balanced, and free of racial, cultural, and gender bias. We acknowledge progress made by SABC to ensure indigenous languages and content represent the demographics in the country. The Freedom Charter states that South Africa belongs to all who live in it, black and white. The current policies and the constitution of the country, in the form of the Bill of Rights, shows consistency in the vision of the ANC-led government. Many in our continent, and of course globally, believe South Africa has a good story to tell and want to learn from it. This is what the minister has referred to when speaking about the resolution of SADC ministers wanting to learn from South Africa, the progressive legislation of the country. This is contrary to the past regime whereby the country was isolated internationally as a result of inhuman policies institutionalized by the sectarian government. Chairperson, I also address you 3 days after the World Press Freedom Day, which is celebrated every year on the 3rd May. And the overarching theme of this year's celebration is access to information and fundamental freedoms. This is nothing else but the freedom of the media. We would like to pay tribute to journalists who have lost their lives in the exercise of their profession. They were imprisoned, assaulted, and harassed in many ways. To mention but a few, we remember Henry Nxumalo, Zolake Sisulu, Philip Timkulu, Joe Tlolwe, Donald Duth, Britton Bach the writer, and Percy Koboza. To further illustrate consistency in our policies, I'll quote what Percy Koboza has said. I don't believe I will be saving the interest of my country and all her people by suppressing the truth simply because such truth is unpalatable to certain sections of the population. We will accordingly give credit where credit is merited. We will dish out condemnation where injustice is being done to anybody, irrespective of who he or she may be. This statement is an indication of the consistency of the Freedom Charter, ANC manifestos, and the current policies of a non-racial South Africa. No state of emergency to change policies overnight, thus witnessing a societal transformation that is led by the ANC government. ANC has managed to transform South Africa within 20 years and correct the damage inflicted over 300 years. Only insane people would expect unreasonable miracles to address the legacy of the past within 20 years. Only a handful of white privileged have embraced transformation, we acknowledge that, and the rest are still resisting, albeit subtle. We are also noting the rent-a-black vote to divide and rule. Chairperson, the honor of the fallen journalists who suffered under apartheid cannot be complete if I do not mention Ruth First, one of the journalists who were forced by the brutal system to leave a country of birth and live in exile. During her time in Mozambique, she was assassinated by means of a parcel bomb addressed to her. That was on the 17 August 1982. That is how they have abused power. It is normal to anticipate a repetition of this brutal act with the existence of the Burama. May their soul rest in peace. Whilst today they pretend to be caring and consultative, they used to rule the country through dictatorship and iron fist. I don't know how many of you know, but it was through an act of parliament that Foster government destroyed the New Age. DA will testify to that, as reported in various articles, that Balthazar Johannes Foster waived an issue of the New Age before a session of parliament, angrily screaming, one of the newspapers which ought to be forbidden is this paper, New Age, which is the propaganda organ of the Communist Party. It is said that by the end of the session, parliament had engineered the paper's demise just overnight without consultation with the public. No such has happened since 1994 till this age. We have not orchestrated any demise of any newspaper, but have, true to form, called for 1,000 flowers and ideas to bloom through various opinions and voices, rather than mainstream the ones that are anti-ANC government. Everyone has the freedom of speech, freedom to express himself and herself. Some of us in this parliament remember the landmark Van Dyke Declaration on media pluralism and independence of 3 May 1991, where it was declared, amongst others, that by pluralistic press, we mean the end of monopolies of any kind and existence of the greatest possible number of newspapers, magazines, periodicals, reflecting the widest possible range of opinion within the community. To encourage and consolidate the positive changes taking place in Africa and to counter negative ones, the international community, specifically development agencies and professional associations, should, as a matter of priority, direct funding support towards the development and establishment of non-governmental newspapers, magazines, periodicals that reflect the society as a whole and the different points of view within the communities they serve. Chairperson, you are highly committed to the promotion of media freedom and enabling the exercise of freedom of expression. We are concerned about media concentration, where a limited number of individuals and organizations own media outlets, like many across the globe, which includes European Union, the USA, New Zealand, and UK. We believe we need to engage in an initiative of the South African Parliament where the public will be engaged on how we can radically transform the media in South Africa and pay particular attention to the risks related to the lack of media diversity. This is an essential pillar of healthy, open, and dynamic democracy.
You've now left
Since
with a
South
minute.
Africa is built on the... Chairperson?
You are now left with 1 minute.
Let me jump to the recommendations of the committee to make sure that transformation does take place. As the mandate of the committee, we oversee the department and make sure that the improved funding and accountability for the funds and other resources. Cultural report and skills development for youth, women, and people living with disabilities, prioritize rural infrastructure and development. We also take pride in the efforts made by SABC in empowering women. However, more needs to be done, especially for people with disabilities. We also applaud MDDA in taking and supporting the media and also training the young people in freedoms of writing, printing, information, and freedom of expression, which are essential for effective decision-making by the public. And we want to make sure that people who get performance bonus, it is not equated to annual bonus, where people get it annually regardless of how they performed. We want to make sure that performance bonus are awarded to people who have performed. The NC support the budget. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Honorable Van Damme.
Honorable Chairperson, under apartheid, the government controlled what the people of South Africa were allowed to watch, listen to, I wasn't born, read, say, and think. It was able to do so because it exercised total control over all aspects of print and broadcast media in South Africa, thus limiting free speech and restricting the flow of information. The SABC, in particular, exists to entrench the apartheid government's power and was its de facto mouthpiece and conduit for propaganda. To guarantee that the SABC would continue to be its mouthpiece, the apartheid government ensured that it had the sole authority to appoint board members and staff at the SABC. It also determined the SABC's editorial content and programming. Sound familiar, Minister? When in 1994, South Africa attained freedom, the drafters of the Constitution agreed to never allow this to happen again. Various sections were drafted into the Constitution protecting free speech, the freedom and independence of the press, and creating an independent authority to regulate broadcasting in the public interest. In the years after 1994, legislation and policy was approved, creating greater openness, accountability, and independence of South Africa's broadcast and print media. Fast forward to present-day South Africa, and boy, have things backslidden. Because the ANC is under pressure at the polls and stands to lose support in a number of major municipalities, it now, like the government before it, seeks total control over South Africa's its public broadcasting and print media. Over the last year, Faith Mutambi, the Minister of Communications, or rather the Minister of Propaganda, has embarked on a state capture project to once again ensure that the government has total control of public broadcasting in particular. This total control project will reverse the culture of openness, accountability, and independence of the sector and leave South Africa's hard-won rights to freedom of speech, freedom of the press, freedom of thought, and the right to receive and impart information severely compromised. All this in the name of keeping the fledgling ANC in power. First, in Minister Motambi's Total Control Project was the Films and Publications Amendment Bill. If passed, this bill will give the government the right to censor communications by all internet users in South Africa, including digital news media outlets. This will be done by the imposition of heavy penalties by a penalty committee appointed by the minister and cabinet. This penalty committee will not only restrict freedom of speech online, it is likely to be used as a political hit squad. The Broadcasting Amendment Bill is another draft law in this minister's total control project. The bill will remove Parliament's role in the appointment of the SABC's non-executive board members and give the minister and president, members of the executive, the power to do so. You must read about the separation of powers. Along with the Memorandum of Incorporation secretly signed by Minister Motambi in September 2014, her office through this bill will have total control over the SABC board. Combined with the power she already has to appoint the CEO, COO, and CFO of the SABC, now the minister will now have firm control over the SABC's day-to-day operations, killing its independence. Honourable Chairperson, the Memorandum of Incorporation is not the only document the Minister has signed in secret in order to gain total control over the SABC. In my hand, I have the SABC's revised editorial policy approved in secret by the SABC board and Minister Motambi in February 2016. Had it not been for a parliamentary question I submitted, the public would have never known that the SABC has finalized its editorial review process. Chairperson, are you going to protect me from these people howling at me like they're in a shebeen? Honourable Chairperson, had it not been for a parliamentary question I submitted, the public would have never known that the SABC finalized its editorial process, and according to Minister Motambi, had already begun implementing it. Had it not been for the likelihood that we would go to court to gain access to this policy, the minister made it available to me when I requested it to her by email. But
Order, honourable members. I'm addressing them. You proceed.
Okay. But I ask, Minister, why was the finalized revised policy kept a secret? Why was there no draft policy released for public comment like during the 2004 editorial review process? Despite an undertaking by the SABC in 2014 that there would be thorough consultation on a draft policy, this did not happen. Indeed, by your own admission, the final editorial policy was presented and approved by the SABC board following an internal review process. I ask again, Minister, why the secrecy? Is it because, Minister, as is evident in a thorough reading of the policy, that the government has, by stealth, captured the SABC's editorial content and programming? In the policy, the COO of the SABC, the infamous Hlaudi Motsoneng, is given the final overall responsibility for SABC content. What giving Hlaudi Motsoneng full responsibility for the SABC's content means is that a person appointed by and beholden to the minister, a political appointee in essence, will have full say on the content of the SABC, thus giving the ANC and the minister direct control over the SABC's editorial decisions and programming. For shame. Another problematic inclusion in the revised policy is that it makes the principle of upward referral mandatory and Motsoneng's decision on all editorial issues final. Editors and content creators are threatened with severe consequences should they not refer contentious matters to their superiors and Mr. Motsoneng. This is a complete U-turn from the old policy, where it was made clear that it is not management's role to make day-to-day programming and newsroom decisions, and although ideal in the old policy, upward referral was largely voluntary. This mandatory upward referral will have a major detrimental effect on journalistic freedom at the SABC. As indicated by the Freedom of Expression Institutes, journalists are at the coalface of accessing information for the broadcaster, and as a result, they are more in touch with the news as it happens than the broadcaster's managements. Managers are not practicing journalists, and even though some in the management of the ANC are former journalists themselves, it would still be a matter of principle that editorial decisions should be left in the hands of editors and not politicians. Honourable Chairperson, there's absolutely no reason for upward referral to the CEO or COO at the SABC. The public broadcaster has a legal department where contentious issues can be consulted. Honourable Chairperson, it is no wonder that the Minister has suspended the CEO of the SABCs for reasons she has to date chosen to keep secret. It was to help Hlaudi Motsoneng build an empire at the SABC. We are told that such is Motsoneng's desire to centralize and exercise total control of the SABC that reporters in the regions have to apply to his office to use vehicles to cover stories. In some instances, it takes up to 5 days before approval is given. I have noticed, Honourable Chairperson, that these days, almost every day now, there's a puff piece about Motsoneng on the SABC News.
Honourable Member, your time is up. Thank you, Honourable Member Van Damme. I will now call upon Honourable Member NP Khoza.
Thank you, Chair. Yesterday, the economic freedom fighters, together with the world, marked the 198th birthday of the founding ideological father of socialism, Karl Marx. We say, long live the ideas and spirit of Karl Marx. Thank you, Chairperson, for the opportunity to debate. The EFF rejects this budget vote and strongly believes Minister Mutambi still does not have a clue what he is doing in this department. Even today, instead of telling us how to roll the budget to resolve the challenges facing the department, she is busy thanking people. Like we have said before, Minister Mutambi, we have no faith in you. Chair, here are the real reasons why we reject the communication budget vote. Honestly speaking, it remained a mystery why Mr. Zuma has not realized that the Department of Communication is not only unnecessary, but its dysfunctionality alone warrants enough reasons to close this department. Who are we fooling? Mr. Zuma and his ministers are not capable of realizing anything, let alone an unnecessary department. When one has a department that does not have a legitimate and a clear mandate or policy substance and is responsible for unrelated entities, why would anyone be surprised that we are where we are today? Instead of one functional department, these and the telecommunication and postal services are both dysfunctional, unnecessary cabinet posts and departments. The minister has turned the department into her own private overseas travel agent. She is in an official holiday. She must come back. Chair, as we approach the election season, in any other constitutional democracy where there is full appreciation of constitutional values, the role of an independent public broadcaster is one of the switches that keep the light of democracy on. But unfortunately, the same cannot be said about the SABC. We know the ANC cannot keep a healthy and a necessary distance. This is a warning to ANC. Stop using the SABC for propaganda. You do not need the SABC. Your friends Gupta family has set up a propaganda channel for you using more than 100 million of taxpayers' money. Why don't you use that and let the SABC serve the people of South Africa?
Order.
Only when ICASA has a status of Chapter 9 institution like the Public Protector and reports straight to Parliament, it is then that its regulatory role will be meaningful to the democracy of South Africa. Until such time, we can all forget about compliance with Electronic Communications Act compliance with terms and conditions. Chair, let alone the fact that South Africa failed to meet the migration of television broadcasts from analog to digital. Come 2018, it must not be a surprise when we sit and debate how the department continue to fail to deliver the set-top boxes they are supposed to deliver. the EFF will not support this budget vote.
Thank you, Honorable Member Koza. I will now call upon Honorable Member L.L. van der Merwe.
Honorable Mafu, VIF.
Order, Honorable Members.
Honorable House Chairperson, this debate comes only a few days after the world commemorated World Press Freedom Day. May I therefore take this opportunity to thank all the members of the press in South Africa who continue to play a vital role in supporting and protecting our democracy. And Honourable Minister, I must say at the outset that I think some of the comments that you made pertaining to our media is worrying to say the least. I mean, we can't simply expect the media just to tell good stories because it suits our government. And any attempts to stifle media freedom or freedom of expression must be condemned. Honourable Chairperson, we must face our challenges head on. To this end, the IFP recently met with the SABC to discuss some of our pressing concerns. Some of these concerns pertain to the fact that our public broadcaster is routinely accused of acting more like a state broadcaster. And we saw echoes of this when the Minister of Social Development recently visited Port Elizabeth. There, the Honourable Minister faced a revolt from an angry crowd. And yes, the story did make it to the news, but the people's revolt against our government was not shown. So as we head into the local government elections, Honourable Minister, we need the assurance that political parties will receive fair coverage and equal treatment. We need the undertaking that there will be no political meddling in the affairs of the SABC and no canning of politically sensitive programs, which has been the case in recent times. It must also be noted that under this minister's leadership, policy direction has taken a sharp turn for the worse. The Broadcasting Amendment Bill, which this budget will fund, will further erode the credibility and the independence of the public broadcaster. While concerns about the SABC's financial credibility and stability remains, we must also give credit where credit is due. The SABC's plans to finally source more of its content locally should be welcomed. Over many years, producers have expressed concerns about the excessive red tape pertaining to the commissioning of content. This initiative is certainly a step in the right direction. Honourable Chairperson, we must also ask ourselves the question today, why is it that we continue to allow corporate communications bullies to make excessive profits at the expense of struggling South Africans? Well, I know there are two sides to the coin. The failure to expand broadband services nationwide, especially to rural communities, is a failure that this government will not live down. But I know that function now resides with the Postal Services and Communications Department, Telecommunications Department. But the fact of the matter remains that the excessive cost to communicate in South Africa hampers not only our economic growth, but it denies opportunities to millions of unemployed young people. This is an issue that deserves far greater focus and effort, Honourable Minister. Under your leadership, Minister, ICASA must act decisively in this regard. But will they? Previous efforts in this regard have come to naught. Citizens are being ripped off, data disappears without a trace, while the pay-as-you-go data prices remain absurdly high. Minister, we thank you for the plans you've outlined in terms of the digital migration process, but the fact remains it is now long overdue. Yet there is still no clarity on how this department will cover the R3 million shortfall for households that cannot afford the set-top box. It must also be said that this department cannot claim gender parity or claim to respect people living with disabilities, while it fails to meet the minimum employment targets in this regard. In conclusion, Honourable Chairperson, the former head of the GCIS, Mr. Tembu Maseko, recently admitted that he was ordered to divert government advertising to the new age. 6 years later, and it's not only the GCIS doing so, Eskom will channel over 43 million to the new age until 2017, while Transnet have just spent 20 million on the new age in the past year. These are just 3 entities, but there are many more. It remains preposterous that in the midst of an economic crisis, this government continues to collude to waste taxpayer money to keep the Gupta state media empire alive. These are the issues that require urgent attention, Honourable Minister.
Your time is up.
If not, the many questions pertaining to the effectiveness and credibility of this department and your budget will remain. I thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member van der Merwe. I now call upon Honourable Member MD Kekana.
Thank you, Chair. Honorable Minister Myamtambi, Deputy Minister Metabete, honorable members of parliament,
Order.
ladies and gentlemen, Tobela, the African National Congress support the budget because mishumo e tswela pele banna le basadi ba gare ba tlhagola tšhemo gore go be le puno e ntšhi. Mmogo re ka kgona. Here is the good story to tell. Brand South Africa's domestic perceptions research shows that being South African is a significant element of individual and national identity. South Africa is the state of pride, patriotism, social cohesion, and active citizenship. Over 80% of 2,536 respondents say they're extremely proud to be South African. Giving further expression to the strength of the country's citizenry, Brand South Africa's research also shows that cohesion levels stand at 76%, and active citizenship levels stand at 61%. Positioning SA as a global competitive destination, Brand SA intensified efforts to work with stakeholders to position South Africa positively during 2015 and 2016 financial year. These include hosting programs at World Economic meetings in Davos and Cape Town, and the annual mining Indaba, during which South Africa was positioned as a destination that is open for business. Furthermore, and also used the opportunity to showcase a range of the country's competitive strength to international media who were in South Africa to cover the African Union and China-Africa summits and strengthen its domestic program by taking Play Your Part to all 9 provinces. SA as a global competitive destination has achieved the following. Out of 140 countries, South Africa was ranked number 49 in World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index. Out of 54 countries in Africa, South Africa is ranked number 4 in Ibrahim Index on Africa governance. Seo se bontšha gore mmušo wa gare mmušo wa batho o šomela batho ebile wa bonagala gore mmušo o mo kae. Jwalo re re African National Congress e tshwere gabotse ebile batho ka moka ba e thabela. Jwalo re bona ge ba kgonne gore bušetša gape gore re tšwele pele go leader naga ka 2014. Also, there was 2016 World Airport Awards. Cape Town International Airport is ranked number 1 out of 550 countries. Lefatshe ka moka ga lona. OR Tambo International Airport is ranked number 5 out of 550 airports in the world, in the 10 to 20 million passenger per category. That is the fact. So Shotangawe, come to join ANC. Then you will be able to see the beauty that we are doing. Durban Airport is ranked number 1st out of 550 airports in the world, in the under 5 million passenger per year category. Cape Town George Airport is the first solar-powered airport in Africa. Also, there was a Lefty Bank quality rankings. Capitec Bank ranked number 1st out of 100 banks, global banks. ABSA ranked number 2 out of 100 global banks. Standard Bank, Nedbank, and First Rand also appearing among the top 100 best banks in the world. Seo se bontšha gabotse gore letsogo le la ka mo le ka tsogo le dumetse se se diragalang. Ka ge le gore ba tseba gabotse gore re sa tseba ga sa ra lebala gore the judge e atlholetseng Solomon Mahlangu to death sentence ke papa go former president of DA, Tony Leon. So, check am ka sarat le bala mar re ba tshwaretse.
Order. Oh, there's a point of order. Honorable member, may you please take your seat?
Thank you. Point of order, Chairperson. The judge who sentenced Solomon Mahlangu to death was not the president of the DA. So can I ask the member to please not mislead the House? Thank you, Chairperson.
Honorable member, did you say the judge was the president of DA?
Kerile Papago, former president of the DA.
Okay. Honorable member, your point of order is not sustained.
Also, the World Bank is of doing business strength. That shows that South Africa, in terms of protecting investors, is number 14 in the world out of 189 countries. Paying taxes, South Africa is number 19 out of 189 branches, 89 countries. That shows that South Africa is still in good hands. And the citizens of South Africa will continue to vote ANC because they know exactly of what we are saying here. And the World Economic Forum Global Competitiveness Index shows that in terms of financial market development, South Africa is number 12 out of 140 countries. Market size, South Africa is number 29 out of 140 countries. Institutions, 38 out of 140 countries. Business sophistication, we are number 33 out of 140 countries. So that shows very well that African National Congress is working, we are growing. And in terms of quality of roads, out of 140 countries, South Africa is number 34. Quality of railroad infrastructure, South Africa is number 42 out of 140 countries. Quality of air transport infrastructure, Rabolalagari Airport, is number 14 out of 140 in the world. Yes.
Order, honorable members.
South Africa is the top destination for FDI projects. The country attracted 121 projects in 2014-2015 financial year.
Honorable members, can we please respect the decorum of the House?
The South African Stock Exchange, the JSE, is the largest exchange on the African continent and the number 19th largest in the world. The second decade of existence of the MDDA has started with exciting developments in the media industry. The sector is at the advent of the switch over from analog to digital. A review of the Electronic Communication Act is underway. The MDDA therefore must be more active in the sector, playing stronger lobbying and advocacy role on the many issues facing the community sector. The MDDA continues to be the largest contributor to enabling access to, control of, and management of the sector by historically disadvantaged individuals. The last decade saw the MDDA change the media landscape quite considerably. Of the estimated 207 community radio stations in existence, 135 were, and some 84 still are funded by the MDDA. More than ever before, all the languages of South Africa are being actively used to communicate to and engage with communities. The MDDA has invested significantly in the purchase of world-class radio equipment, enabling quality production. Taucha toka soboka. Di shitwa ke nare itlotse. Mo go bontšha gore soboka sa rena se tloga se bereka. Ka fao go gore re tshepišitše setšhaba gore di tla khumana di radio gore le bona ba kgone go ithuta e fela ke tšere di fihlišitše setšhaba se thabile se a tseba se ba se sepišitšweng. With less than 10 years having passed since first 1-year license was granted in South Africa to a community TV station, this sector has grown into a resilient industry. The MDDA has supported 4 stations, of which 2 are still being supported. Similarly, the community and small commercial print sector has grown significantly in recent years, with South Africa now boasting more than 200 small publishers, a large proportion of which are publishing in an indigenous language. The MDDA has funded in total some 53 community
Honourable
print
Member,
projects.
your time is up.
I'm appealing to all South Africans to pay TV license. Siyathokoza. Bayadanki.
Thank you, Honourable Member Kekana. I will now call upon Honourable Member Sheikh Imam.
Thank you, Honorable House Chair, Minister, members of this House. At the very outset, let me say that the National Freedom Party supports this budget vote 3. And yes, we must not be surprised. In order for service delivery to be maintained, in order to deliver to the poorest of the poor, then we must support the budget. So let us not be surprised. Remember, if you don't pass the budget, it does not affect the haves. It does not affect the rich. It affects the poorest of the poor, so we must support the budget. The total budget allocation for the department is 1.3 billion, with a steady 6% increase foreseen in the medium term between 2016 and 2019. The National Freedom Party welcomes the general reduction in employee compensation evident in programs 1, 2, and 3, and in line with the call for austerity in government spending. We are also encouraged by the department's decision to focus on youth development in the ICT environment at a time when youth unemployment is reasonably high. Equally important, we note the progress made in gender transformation taking place in both the department and some of its entities. However, the National Freedom Party believes that too few women are in decision-making positions at Brand South Africa, and more should be done to ensure progress towards gender parity in this entity. The National Freedom Party further welcomes the reduction in the use of consultants. We have constantly maintained that government departments should minimize the use of consultants and build internal capacity by retaining expertise through permanent employment. We also welcome the proposed ban on alcohol advertising. Alcohol is a very harmful product, and we have to weigh up the advantage of generating income through advertising against the devastating effect alcohol has on healthcare in South Africa and the destruction of our society. Any reasonable government that is serious about the welfare of its citizens will not hesitate to make possible every effort to reduce potential harm, and accordingly, the National Freedom Party is fully in support of this ban. Another issue which we believe should be addressed by the Department of Communication is the negative reporting on South Africa, both locally and internationally. Whilst we in no way wish to detract from freedom of the press, and let us not misinterpret this in any way, the National Freedom Party believes that we also need to know about the good things that are happening in our country. We need more balanced reporting so that South Africans can keep faith in our country and to prove that all is not doom and gloom in South Africa. Consistent negative reporting has the potential to damage South Africans psychologically in the long term, and we run the risk of a society which has no faith in their future. The National Freedom Party welcomes and supports the recommendations made by the Portfolio Committee, and in particular approve of the recommendation that the department should make available a report on the compliance of municipalities on the use of community media projects when advertising. If we are serious about giving community media projects access to opportunities, we should start at local level rather than making use of national and international news and media agencies. As the National Freedom Party, we acknowledge the various strides made by the department, and in conclusion, the National Freedom Party supports vote 3. I thank you.
Thank you, Honorable Member Imem. I now call upon Honorable Member S.R. van Schalkwyk.
Honorable Chairperson, Honorable Minister, Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable members, leadership and staff of the department and entities, esteemed guests in the gallery, citizens of South Africa, good morning. South Africa is trapped in a cycle of modest growth, high inequality and high unemployment. The economy's poor performance in creating employment has led to many debates in South Africa. One is global competitiveness of the country, and high unemployment is a sign of domestic industry's inability to compete with high-tech or low-wage countries. At the same time, however, there is overwhelming optimism worldwide towards the opportunities that the ICT revolution promises to bring to the developing world. More efficient governments, productive businesses, globally competitive knowledge workers, and empowered rural communities. Beyond these promises, there is also growing evidence that ICT, if used in the right way and for the right purposes, can bring dramatic impact in social and economic development goals, and also plays a key role in broader national development strategies. To this end, Chapter 15 of the NDP focuses on transforming society and uniting the country. The NDP notes that inequality is still prevalent in the country despite the work being done in uniting the country since 1994. The Department of Communications, therefore, has a pivotal role to play in ensuring that unity is fostered and supports the rights of citizens to express themselves. The question is how to adapt the existing regulatory institutions to the new dynamics of the ICT industry in order to achieve desirable government policy goals, and what these should be in light of dramatic changes in communications technology, market structures, and the needs of the democratic society. Honorable Chairperson, to answer this question, ICASA has been allocated the budget of 414.4 million rand for the 2016-17 financial year. It is important to re-emphasize the strategic outcome-orientated goals of ICASA, which amongst others includes in universal access to broadband services, common national identity, social cohesion. The department is working with ICASA to finalize and bring stability to the issue of relocation of ICASA head office in order to cut costs in line with the austerity measures announced by His Excellency the President, as well as the Minister of Finance. Honorable Chairperson, monitoring and enforcement activities are key components of the role of the regulator, where the lack of any ability to enforce legislation hinders the authority's efforts to support government objectives. In addition, the authority continues to protect consumers of the services from unfair retail practices through public awareness campaigns and complaints handling systems. Of particular interest is the protection and promotion of the ICT services needs of persons with disabilities, which ICASA has accepted as its special priority. Honorable Chairperson, as the ANC-led government, we have a constitutional obligation of protecting children from accessing inappropriate or unsuitable and harmful content online. While we see this as a primary responsibility of parents, it is our considered view that there is an even greater responsibility and role for both content service providers and government in all spheres. We need to make our kids' business our business. Do we know which internet sites our kids are visiting? Do we know the age restriction of films and games our kids are exposed to? Do we really know who our kids are befriending on social networks and the dangers they are exposed to? Do we know what our kids are posting? As the ANC, we are convinced that a mixture of approaches is needed to address community expectations. We are doing this so that children may be protected from some online user-generated content where there is little reference or guidance provided for material. Our greatest concerns as the committee is the content containing violence and extreme behavior and those harmful to children, especially child pornography videos. 31.8 million rand over the midterm is allocated to public awareness
and education for these activities. The production of marketing material and rental of equipment and the travel and accommodation costs are expected to drive estimated expenditure and to reach about 10 million South Africans. That is how serious this government is taking care of the well-being of our kids. Honorable Chairperson, this ANC-led government ensured that through the FPB Act, the use of children in pornography is a punishable criminal offense. 22.9 million rand over the midterm is allocated in the online and mobile content regulation program, SIACUBA. The committee noted and appreciates the development and approval of the Teachers Training Manual on Cyber Safety in all schools in South Africa. More than 5 million rand of street value pirated material has been confiscated and distracted by FPB through collaborations of subs. Agbare voorsitter, dit is beslis seker dat die ANC-geleide regering werklik ernstig is om omstandighede van gemeenskapslede op alle vlakke toenemend te verander. Ons het dus geen ander rede as keuses om ons kiesers aan te moedig om weer op die 3 Augustus te stem vir die ANC om ten einde te verseker dat meer gedoen kan word.
Honorable member, your
Die
time is
ANC
up.
support die budget.
Thank you, Honorable Member van Skalkwyk. I will now call upon Honorable Member van Dijk.
Honourable Speaker, members of the House, one annual report of Brand SA, our nation brand, starts with, and I quote, "Brand is really just another word for reputation. It is what we stand or fall by. It is shaped gradually over time, not only in the things we do, but in the way we do them," unquote. Referring to your speech at the World Communication Forum, you said, Honourable Matambi, that reputation allows us to stand out and stand tall, and I quote, "We stand tall," unquote. Minister, I beg to differ. The ANC and the President did a Humpty Dumpty. They all fell down. This conclusion reinforced by your next words, and I quote, "The reputation of our country is safely guarded. It is managed at the highest level. We live by the values that define our nation. We remain transparent and accountable. We ensure this is reflected in our communication," unquote. If this is reflected by how the ANC President is violating our Constitution, I rest my case. It is time to change again, to change to a government we can again believe in and that will uphold the Constitution. South Africa, we can go with a corruption flow like the ANC on my right-hand side, or we can take control like the DA and have a say in how we are perceived. Brand SA het 'n groot mandaat, kapasiteit om dit uit te voer, naamlik begroting, markgeloofwaardigheid en politieke en institusionele invloed is baie beperkend. As beeldpoetser is BSA se hooffunksie om die land se reputasie en globale mededingendheid uit te bou, by te dra tot werkskepping, handel en toerisme te bevorder. Uitkomste is egter moeilik meetbaar, soos uitgewys en bevraagteken in die OG-verslag. Byvoorbeeld, hoe is gemeet dat Suid-Afrikaners se trotsindeks 80% is? BSA se 2015-16 begrotingstoedeling was 173.2 miljoen, 'n skrale verhoging van 8 miljoen na 181.2 miljoen nou. Die totaal baie minder as die opgraderingsspandeer aan Nkandla. Die groeiende personeelkomponent van 57 het 23 in die top 4 salarisskaal en kos die belastingbetalers melkkoei gemiddeld 1.4 miljoen per persoon. Die oorblywende bedrag om doeltreffend te funksioneer het is afgeneem en kwaliteit werkuitsette word beslis ingeboet. Terwyl die Guptas vat jou goed en trek Ferreira gesing het, sit Suid-Afrika natuurlik steeds met Vader Jakob, ANC-president wat nie politieke en morele verantwoordelikheid aanvaar nie. And yes, also in Brand SA, a Gupta was until recently a member of the Board of Trustees. Brand SA's mission to build confidence in the future of the nation by telling our inspiring South African story is proving indeed be a challenge. Our society and economy continues to suffer under the poor leadership of Zuma and the ANC. According to Stats SA, tourism in 2015 is down by 6.8%. Food security is threatened. Government not understanding in full the ripple effect of the severe drought we are experiencing. 8.3 million people are jobless. More jobs and better education is the key way to improving people's lives. BEE failed, often resulting in inflated prices and poor quality. If government really is serious about empowering black South Africans, It needs to shift away from current failed ANC policies that bypass the great majority, helping only a small political connected group. This undermines public service efficiency, deters investment, limits the growth rate, and makes it harder to generate jobs. MDDA is 'n geval van bo blink onder stink. Met my persoonlike oorsig na befondste projekte het ek gevind dat die befondsingsmodel hersien moet word en dat die monitering van projekte veel te wense laat. Sedert 2013-14 het die personeel verder verminder na slegs 14 uit 32 gevulde poste tans. Senior posisies is steeds op aflosbasis. Beweerde prestasies statistieke van 56% word betwyfel, behalwe as MDDA doelwitte verminder het. Net 5 uit 22 projekte is byvoorbeeld goedgekeur vir befondsing. Dit wil sê slegs 20%. Die DA steun egter navorsing en impakstudies in die MDDA om behoorlike meganismes in plek te stel om gemeenskap media volhoubaar uit te bou. Now that the ANC president has admitted that a convicted criminal was appointed to the MDDA board, maybe his removal will follow soon. Both. How did Ntenteni pass the scrutinizing of the state security screening in the first place? Parliament is becoming a place where more and more criminals fit in. South Africa deserves better. It's time for change. Vote for that change. Your vote is your voice. Thank you.
Thank you, Honourable Member Van Dijk. I will now call upon Honourable Member Tsedi. Order.
Honorable Chairperson, honorable members, distinguished guests, I would have wanted to start by responding to some of the issues raised by the opposition, but you will agree with me that they said absolutely nothing that warrants any response. Let me indicate upfront, Honorable Chair, that the ANC supports Vote 3 of the Department of Communications. The ANC declared in its Ready to Govern policy document, and I quote, South Africa has been a closed society with many restrictions on the flow of information. Legislation, the structure of ownership of media resources, skills, language policy, social deprivation have undermined access to information for the majority of population, close quote. Since the democratic dispensation, tremendous progress has been made in the realization of this declaration by the ANC-led government. Indeed, South Africa is now a better place to live in than it was in 1994. My contribution to this debate will focus largely on the SABC. The SABC ended the financial year on a positive cash balance, which its financial ratios indicating that the corporation is in a good financial position and can meet all of its obligations. Its TV section still commands 80% of the top 30 shows in the country and does not have any audit qualification. The SABC anchor that was launched last year is performing very well, especially in the broadcasting of local content. Honorable Chairperson, the SABC radio stations collectively achieved a total of 70% market share in the highly competitive landscape, affirming relevance and usefulness of content they deliver in various official languages. The public broadcasting service radio is averaging 60% of local content quota, which is 20% more than the mandatory 40% as required by CASA. The public commercial services is averaging 35%, which is 10% more than CASA's 25% quota. The news channel is not only growing here at home, but is gaining momentum as a pan-African broadcaster and is now broadcasting in 47 countries out of 52. The SABC has increased its live crossing ability to all provinces, and this initiative allows the public broadcaster to tell stories of all ordinary South Africans in previously untapped rural areas. The opening of offices in places like Richards Bay affords the SABC with a rare opportunity of engaging with communities, particularly in rural communities. Honorable Minister, like you, we remain concerned about the adequate funding for the corporation. We however appreciate the strategic partnerships that are being secured through the efforts of the Chief Operations Officer, Mr. Hlaudi Mtsweni. like the one it has with MultiChoice. We'll have to progressively increase its funding as resolved by the ANC NGC in 2015 to ensure that its independence as a public broadcaster is not compromised and for it to effectively execute its mandate. It is worth noting and commendable that performance agreements with employees, particularly at senior and executive level, have been signed, unlike in the previous years. This will make it possible for employees to be held accountable for non-performance and transgressions of the regulations. We welcome the creation of the channels that will cover a cluster of language groups to ensure that the public broadcaster audiences are better served in the languages of their choice. The new channels will also enhance the SABC's capacity to persons with disability. To this end, the corporation has established in-house capabilities that will produce some of the new content in various official languages. Roto Toma ka history ya Afrika Tshipembe, udova na channel ya uhasha nga Xitsonga na nga Tshivenḓa. Hezwo ndi zwine muvhuso wa Afrika Congress wo ḓiimisela u ita zwone. The budget presented today is indeed a people-centered budget and will go a long way in transforming media ownership patterns. This budget responds positively to the provision of infrastructure to community radios. It will also strengthen the capacity of the department to deliver on its mandate of conducting oversight over its entities. Honorable Ministers, the ANC will commend you in the progress you have made in the broadcasting digital migration project, which comes with a lot of benefits for our people. And we are confident that you will deliver on the analog switch-off target of 2018-19. We commend you for being decisive by linking the TV license requirement from the set-top box subsidy registration process, as you announced today. Indeed, the department is hard at work. Amilcar Cabral warns us of the opportunists like the ones on my left and advises us to be vigilant against them. He says we must be careful to unmask them in order to disclose their true character and what they represent. And that is exactly what I want to do. Honorable Maimane, I wish you were here. He is a power hypocrite. He goes to church on Sunday, preach forgiveness, but act condemnation. He indicates left and turn right. Such a driver is not only dangerous to the pedestrians, and also dangerous to the fellow passengers.
Point of order.
He is also dangerous to
House Chair,
other
point of order.
drivers.
Honorable Tsedi, just take your seat. Why are you standing?
The member of the podium is talking about a member that's not here in the House and has not an opportunity to defend himself. And if he wants to, you can put us a separate motion in that regard.
Thank you very much. That's not a point of order. Can you proceed, Honorable Tsedi?
Such a driver is
Mr.
not
Speaker,
only dangerous to the
Mr. Chairman,
pedestrians and
I beg your pardon.
Order, Honorable
Point
Tsedi.
of order.
Just take your seat. Let's hear again.
I'm
What's the
afraid it
point
is a point of order. You can't just say it's not a point of order. It is a point of order. And I want you to address it. Thank you very much.
Look, if I've made the ruling that it's not a point of order, why should you contest?
Could I please ask you to refer it to the Rules Committee? Thank you.
No, but that will be my judgment if I think so. So I'm saying...
I am requesting you to refer it to the Rules Committee. I am requesting as a member of this House. It's not up to you to decide. I'm requesting it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Just take your seat. Proceed, Honorable Tsedi.
There is no difference between that driver and the one who is driving under the influence of alcohol. The ANC is a forgiving organization, and people of South Africa are a forgiving nation. Because if it was not the case, we will not be with you, some of you in the same parliament like we are doing today. I must remind you it was very difficult for the ANC to convince our people to reconcile with you, given what your apartheid government did to our people. I come from Chikota location, where most of the real freedom fighters who were killed by your apartheid government were buried as unidentified paupers. real freedom fighters, not like the Mickey Mouse ones. It was very painful for the families of the community of Chikota to witness the exhumations of the bodies by the NPA's missing persons task team, because this caring ANC government wanted their families to find closure and bury their loved ones in a dignified manner. Like what Honorable Kekana has indicated, we have forgiven you, but we will never forget that. Honorable Koza, I'm not surprised why you did not say anything here today, because you were not even part of all the deliberations we had that led to us adopting this budget speech. These honorable members, as much as they were part of this house for 2 years, they are still struggling to differentiate between robustness and hooliganism. They still confuse robustness with anarchy, warawara, veveru. That is why they even make reckless comments which are in violation with the Constitution, and they reason later when it's supposed to be the other way around. And I think they are suffering from schizophrenia, and I think they will have to improve if they want people to take them serious. We are pleased that our people have now come to realize that they have nothing to offer except to deny them their right to have legislation passed that will create a better life for them, and also delay measures to address unemployment, inequality, and poverty. It is only the ANC that has got a clear program of action to change the lives of our people for the better. Dingazo vatu va Afrika Chipembe vachitobva nga vunji nga lararu la Thangule vachiyovhotera ANC. Sa ANC ri tikesa mugwagwa wa magwanga wa muhasho wa zwa vhudavhidzano. Ndolivhuwa.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, all that have debated, you have made some suggestions, proposals, and questions. Can we now offer the Minister of Communications to come and respond on that? The Honorable Minister of Communications.
You do believe me? Thank you for believing me. Thank you so much, House Chair. Thank you, honorable members, for participating in this debate. I want to start with Honorable Van Dam, my colleague. I want to say up front, it seems as if you have run out of ideas. I'm raising it because the reality is that the SABC is seized with all the matters that the public protectors has raised. So, Honorable, the SABC is seized. You see, you wish you were a board member. Maybe that's the other issue to say. I urge you to read the act. The act is very clear. Who does what at the SABC? Can you offer the minister to respond to the issues that you have raised? Thank you. Proceed, Honorable. Okay, thank you, House Chair. You see, okay, Honorable House Chair, I won't listen to the colleagues. Maybe we can engage after this meeting. I'll respond to all the other issues that are. Let me deal with the factual issues that we have raised. I was indicating that the SABC is seized with all the matters that the public protector has raised. Honorable Van Dam, I will urge you to familiarize yourself with the details, not to simply insist on a vendetta against everything that the broadcaster pursues. I'm also worried and concerned, Honorable Van Dam, you choose to be selective with the information when it comes to the issue of the editorial policy. You recall, I responded to your question on the editorial policy and even emailed to you the editorial policy to that effect. Then, The editorial policy, it included the information about how the processes to review the editorial policy was done by the SABC, including the public consultation undertaken in all provinces. And I've even given you a list to say which provinces have been communicated. And then the issue of the Films and Publication Amendment Bill, it has been introduced to Parliament to address the Constitutional Court ruling which required certain sections of the Act to be amended, and we are precisely doing that. With regard to the SABC executive appointment, when you're talking about my total control, the project, I think, number one, you are scared of the transformation which is happening at the SABC. You remember, the SABC solely in the past used to cover a particular race. So I think you get offended to see South Africans now being portrayed on the media, the opportunity that they never had in the past. And that then upsets you a lot. Hence you are saying you are not interested in the transformation agenda of the SABC. It's one thing we proud ourselves of to say we see South Africans telling their stories where they come from, instead like what used to happen in the past where you only see stories from these three major cities, Durban, Johannesburg, and Cape Town. So the SABC that we see today is a transformed SABC that has got the interests of our people at heart by informing, educating, and entertaining them. And at least for me, I'm very proud to see Shibelane being broadcasted at the SABC that our people never had in the past. Okay, and you are also selective with information when you focus on the suspension of the group CEO. I got your message, Honorable Van Damme, you were sick. When we presented to the portfolio committee, the information, so your colleague sitting next to you, Honorable Van Dijk, will attest to you. She further sent a follow-up question, which I responded on the conditions of the suspension of the GCE. So I think you need to look at that because I also responded to a parliamentary question to that effect. I think you need to also start.
Chairperson, the minister is misleading the House. She has not provided the reasons why the CEO was suspended. And that she didn't
Honorable House Chairperson, on a point of order. On a point of order, Honorable Chairperson. We are here to listen to the minister's responses, not the jumping up and down of the GA members.
Thank you very much. Honorable members, Honorable Van Damme, I believe that when you were debating, the minister has not been interjecting you left and right to an extent that, therefore now is the opportunity for the minister to respond. If you could give her the opportunity to respond. If there are any further issues that you want to engage her, the committee is still available the following week. Thank you very much. You may proceed.
Honorable Van Damme, I think what you need to do is to stop the obsession of about this group, the COO of the SABC. I think this obsession needs to stop because we all know the good work that we are doing. I've reported earlier to say last week he convened a meeting where for the first time, all content producers were called, and you can see the initiative that we are trying to bring. With regard to the SABC executive appointment, I will urge you colleagues from the opposition to go and read Section 14 of the Broadcasting Act, which stipulates that the affairs of the SABC, they are administered by the executive committee, that includes your group CEO, COO, CFO, which is accountable to the board. There is no involvement of myself in the affairs of the SABC. So if at least you aspire to become a board member, I think there are vacancies that you are busy filling. You must just cross the floor and apply and become a board member, then it's okay. And then you made mention of the upward referral. That's indicated in this editorial policy, which I believe you have read it. In fact, the upward referral that was referred
Honorable
to that
Minister.
editorial.
Just hang on.
Yeah, Chairperson, I want to just point out to you, I want to ask the Minister a question because she just said,
Okay.
if you want to be a board member,
Just,
you must cross the floor
wait.
and then you'll be appointed. So
No.
does that mean the ANC appoints SABC boards?
No.
That's what she said.
No,
Check your hands
fundamental-
out. She said, if you want to be an
Honorable
SABC
Fund-
board member,
Honorable
you must cross the floor and then you'll be appointed.
Just hang on a second. Just hang on a second. Order, honorable members. If you want order,
I meant.
order, honorable members. Just hang on, the minister. If you want to ask a question, you must give me the opportunity to ask whether the minister wants to take your question. Now you just proceed, and that is problematic. Honorable Minister, proceed.
Okay. Honorable Van der Merwe, to that effect, I mean resign as a member of parliament.
Honorable Minister, just a second again. What's your point of order?
Thank you, House Chair. House Chair, will the Minister take a question on
Okay,
cadre deployment?
just hang on. Honorable Minister, do you want to take a question?
No.
Okay,
After,
just want to take a question, take a seat.
outside this house, I'm ready, available to engage the honorable member. So I was talking about the upward referral to say it was solely with regard to a situation wherein a journalist would like maybe, for instance, to go outside the country to cover a disaster. That's the referral then there's a flight involved that need to be done in an emergency basis. Then that's what we meant by upward referral. And then in relation to the so-called propaganda that you referred to, colleague, both the ECA and the Broadcasting Act, they dictate how the SABC should conduct itself. It suggests that we read, therefore I'm suggesting, honorable members, that you read the legislation, including the board charter, that is very clear on what to do. And then with regard to the amendment, we want to, you have commented on the amendment of the bill as members of the opposition. And then we want to align the SABC to address the current weaknesses like the appointment and the removal of board members. And then you have raised the issue on print media. I was a member with Honorable Van der Merwe in the Portfolio Committee, wherein we all know that the committee then undertook a public hearings on the transformation of print media as well as the advertising industry. The committee recommended that GCIS and MDDA must work with the industry, and then what we are simply doing is just to implement the recommendation of the same committee. So I'm surprised if the DA, because at that particular time, I think I urge you to go and check the records. And Honorable Shin, seated behind you, will also remind you that there was a decision by the committee then. And then with regard to the issue of use of consultant, Honorable Sheikh, we can repeat to the House that during the establishment of our department, we didn't use any consultant. So then our entities are also following suit. In our quarterly report, back meetings that we hold with entities, they normally give us the progress reports with regard to utilization of consultants, the information that we are prepared to share with you. We also support your idea, Honorable Sheikh, that Brandeis South Africa must also be mandated to contribute to the nation building and social cohesion programs, and then to also instill patriotism. I think that's a good and a fair contribution. But now I want to address, for the EFF, really, I won't have anything to say to them because seemingly they are even gone. But I want to remind them to say they said nothing at all. As the other members have said, to say also their representation in the committee is a different person who seem not to be seized then, but I'll urge them to go and read the strike plans and the APPs as submitted to Parliament. Maybe they will have an understanding of the work that we do. And then also the other issues that I felt is very clear we need to address is the issue of which the opposition raised, that to say media bulk buying is a decision of cabinet that was taken long ago. So this, what you see happening is the outcome of that decision. May I also take this opportunity to remind all of those of you who are in position of authority that failure to report corruption or suspicion of such tendencies is a criminal offense in terms of Section 34, in terms of the Poker Act. Don't come here and just do grandstanding. If there's any act of corruption that you have seen happening, why are you not reporting it than floating the law and come and say and come and grandstand? Okay.
Just round up, Minister. Just round up.
Okay,
your
thank
response.
you. So, the skeletons. So you've got a responsibility. So I want to assure you that this government won't be deterred in its resolve to ensure that there is media diversity. Also, the APP of ICASA has clearly mapped out the efficiency and improvements in its work. The new councillors must be given an opportunity to bring in new and fresh perspective. Honorable members, the people of South Africa have given the ANC a mandate to govern South Africa. This mandate is not to co-govern with the opposition, whose manifestos were roundly rejected by the electorate. So the proposed changes in the SABC bill is to ensure that there is a clean break from an apartheid dispensation. This bill will also usher in efficiencies and agility to respond to the modern day demands that require timely responses. Therefore, we must all remember the SABC as a public broadcaster must distinguish itself from the privately owned media, which some of you own. And then that's why now the SABC's mandate is to inform, educate, and entertain the nation. To us, we are saying this is happening. Hence, if you find somebody who would love to defend the old apartheid editorial policy, it will never happen in our lifetime.
Thank you.
Hence, we commend the budget vote. Thank you, Honorable Chair.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Honorable members, let's thank the ministry led by the minister and the portfolio committee led by the acting chairperson and all members that have debated and all members that have supported this debate. Let's also thank our guests for having been with us in this debate. Thank you very much. That concludes the debate and the business of this extended public committee. The public committee will now rise.